Welcome to Equipping Leaders, a podcast where I share tools and perspectives to equip leaders in self-development and team connection. I am your host, Natasha, and I am excited to share today's episode with you. On today's episode, I'm going to talk about Liz Wiseman's work, specifically on accidental diminishers. In her book Multipliers, which was released in 2010, Liz Wiseman talked about the idea of multipliers and diminishers. A multiplier is someone who multiplies the talent and the intellect around them. They do not need to be the genius in the room or the person with the most attention or with the most ideas and answers. And a diminisher is kind of the opposite. They need to be the sage on the stage, hoarding and dispensing knowledge and information where they see fit. Then you have accidental diminishers, which are types of well-meaning behaviors that inadvertently diminish those around us. Before I jump into each of the 6 accidental diminishers, it's important to acknowledge that these are behaviors and not a tool to diagnose people. Also, one person's diminisher could easily be another person's multiplier. So it's important to understand your audience and the impact of your behavior on those around you. There are 6 accidental diminishers, and any one of us can demonstrate these behaviors at any time. It is valuable to understand them and have the self-awareness to acknowledge when they show up and how we can adjust. First, you have the idea fountain. And this is the person who just has a million ideas, right? They can spin a lot of great ideas from something very small, and they're very creative and innovative. While their intention is to throw out a lot of ideas to stimulate creativity and ideas in others, what usually ends up happening is that others feel overwhelmed by all the ideas, and they either shut down or they get caught in a web of trying to figure out which idea is the best idea, and ultimately nothing moves forward. The always on person is just that. Always on. Their energy can be infectious, and people may love to be around them because of their enthusiasm, or they can overtake the space and people will start to tune them out. I know that I can easily fall into the always on behavior because I'm an all-day person, and that can be really overwhelming for others because it can make people feel like they have to stay at that high energy level, and that can be really exhausting. The accidental diminisher that I see the most frequently in others is the rescuer. And this is a person who jumps in and saves people from being uncomfortable or from failing or from risking any aspect of their reputation. Our intent is to protect them from something that we have experienced or something that we see coming for them. But what happens is that we rob them of learning a lesson, and what we encourage is learned helplessness in others. The pace setter is a person who is always setting high standards and staying in the front. This is different from leading from the front because what happens is that this person pulls out ahead so far that others are not able to keep up with them, so they give up. The rapid responder is that person who responds to an email before anyone else even has a chance to read that email. They respond so quickly that they do not give others the opportunity to respond. And their intent is to keep their organization moving fast and into the future. The diminishing side of this is that there are then too many decisions and changes, and people are left feeling confused and once again unable to move forward. Finally, there is the optimist. And there's a lot of value, of course, in being optimistic about things, but this version of the optimist seems to be a bit out of touch with reality, doesn't understand the struggles of others, or really appreciate the possibility of failure. And when you're leading others, people really want to know that you understand those struggles and those possibilities. I have found this work to be helpful in the realm of leadership and coaching especially. We go at things with the best intentions, but sometimes the impact is not what we wanted. As coaches, these show up in ways that prevent those that we are coaching from reaching their own options and conclusions. How can we start to identify the accidental diminishers that are impacting us and the people that we lead? First, we can honestly assess ourselves and consider which accidental diminishers show up for us and when. What circumstances cause us to lean into an accidental diminisher? From there, think of 2 or 3 things that you can do to overcome that accidental diminisher in those situations. Next, and this requires both courage and vulnerability on the part of you as a leader, is to go to your team and ask them which accidental diminishers they see in you and when. Sometimes we do not notice one of these because it is a blind spot for us. Asking others for an honest assessment can show us ways that we are showing up that we do not intend to be showing up. Join me again next week for a panel discussion with Sean Perry and Dwayne Dwyer as we answer listener questions. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Equipping Leaders podcast. For more leadership development content, you can visit my website, natashacheyenne.com, where you will find my leadership journal with dozens of articles and the Cultivation Cafe, which is always growing and has leadership frameworks, book recommendations, and inclusion and mental health resources. You can also follow me on Instagram at novel_Natasha or at Equipping Leaders Podcast and on Twitter at Natasha Cheyenne. Join me next week for another episode.